As we start hour 3, though, we welcome aboard our friend Kat Terrell from The Athletic, covering the New Orleans Saints, but kind of a different angle today as we chat with Kat. Hey, how are you? Thanks for the time.
I'm doing great. Just doing some Mardi Gras shopping. The important stuff.
Mardi Gras shopping, like for
Few
beads
weeks
or for
away.
clothes?
For clothes, come on. You
Okay.
gotta, you gotta look good for 2 days.
Well, I didn't know because if you were perhaps riding in a parade, of which I might have been unaware, maybe you were shopping for throws, right?
I actually did get to ride in Endymion a few years ago for a story.
Oh,
That
wow.
was pretty fun, but I'm good on the sidelines.
What was the story for?
I was following around Marshawn Lattimore and Alvin Kamara as they rode in Endymion, and it was hilarious because at one
Oh.
point in the middle of the parade, they got off the float and were going around talking to people, and it was actually it turned out pretty good. It was
Did
definitely different, but it was fun.
did you get to drink on the float?
I was working, Matt.
Well, it also sounds really sucky if you're the only drunk person in a sea of humanity that is all drunk.
I will say, most of the players and their friends were on the top of the float, and they were definitely drinking. And at one point, a bottle of Hennessy fell from the top of the float. I was like, "Yep, Mardi Gras, sounds about right."
Wait, did it hit you?
No, it hit someone else, but they were fine.
Oh.
It was all good. No
All
injuries
right.
on the float.
Okay. I will now move. See, I have a tendency to do this, as you know, Kat. Like, I can get on a tangent, and then it's just like I get fascinated by something, and then I keep asking questions. I look up, and the whole interview's over. But we do have business at hand. I wanted to talk to you today because you worked in Cincinnati. You covered the Bengals for ESPN.com, and there's so much of this conversation now swirling around, does Joe Burrow want to go to Cincinnati because Cincinnati might not be committed to winning? So let me just start with an open-ended question. What were your impressions of the big picture impressions of the Bengals organization covering that team?
My impression was that they are an organization that is kind of being dragged into the 21st century, kicking and screaming. They're changing slowly, but maybe not fast enough as people would like. And I think everyone's perception of them is 20 years behind. Everyone thinks of the Bengals in the 90s when they lost every year, but I don't think they're not that organization anymore. And yes, they do want to win, but they're also not going to go freely throw around money for outside free agents like other teams might. So, there is a lot of misperception there, but I understand where it comes from.
So where is it rooted strictly in the fact that they were the Bungles in the 90s and just seemingly couldn't get out of their own way? I mean, is that where this all stems from?
Part of it, but I think they also kind of bring it upon themselves in a way. They stuck with Marvin Lewis for years and years and years, although I would argue back when Marvin started, they really were different, and he had to wrestle things away from them to get them to agree to what he wanted. And it makes me wonder what he could have done those first few years if maybe they had given him more control or things like that. But I think, in ways they've brought it upon themselves, but in ways it's not really fair. And it's interesting, though, because Carson Palmer felt like he couldn't win there. That was a big issue. And, obviously he's gone on record saying Joe Burrow shouldn't go there. And now Joe Burrow is, as far as I know, training with Jordan Palmer in the offseason. So it's all kind of interesting, and it could make for a long few months up into the draft.
Do you think so? My outside looking in theory, looking at Cincinnati, what with Marvin Lewis in particular, where they committed to him for 15 years, was they're in a division with literally the most stable organization in the history of the league. That's had 3 coaches since 1969. Maybe that was the Bengals just being patient in trying to mirror the successful organization in Pittsburgh.
I really think it comes from Mike Brown valuing consistency. They value consistency in what they know over changing, and part of that has kind of shown up lately in how bad their defense has been the last few years. The Bengals actually had a great defense for years, but the Bengals' view of linebackers, this is just an example, was years behind what everyone else's were. They thought the big, slower, strong linebacker was the way to go, and that's not reality. In reality today, it's the smaller, faster linebacker. But they're changing slowly. They made a trade for Cordy Glenn 2 years ago, and I know that sounds, who cares? But for them, making a big offseason trade was huge. So the thing is, though, they're never going to be an organization that goes and spends, $50 million on an outside free agent. Now, they'll pay their own guys, but they're not going to make a big splash day one of free agency, and I just don't ever see that changing.
Katherine, Terrell's with us on Twitter at @Cat_Terrell. Covers the Saints for theathletic.com. You're obviously, I think many people know, an LSU grad, so perhaps there's a hint of bias in what your answer might be for this question, but does Burrow fit in Cincinnati?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I think that everyone thinks, well, Zach Taylor is a quarterback's coach. It should be a fit. But, I mean, I do wonder. On one hand, his family is there. He's from Ohio. His dad is 3 hours away to drive to his games. That all seems, perfectly set up for the Ohio boy to come home. On the other hand, I don't know what to make of Zach Taylor yet. I don't. I mean, I don't know if he's a good coach and just needed time, or if he's a bad coach and that'll show up in a few years. And, also I think that they need to improve their offense a little bit if A.J. Green ends up not playing next year. So I think Burrow he can make a huge change there, and I think he can fit in with the culture and all of that. But I just think there are a lot of unknowns. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But I do not believe that the organization is the same organization that Carson Palmer played in. Yet I think they have a ways to go.
I don't know how much you know about the roster as it's currently constructed, and they just had a miserable season, obviously. But
right.
is there enough talent if you insert Joe Burrow at quarterback to think that's a team that could win a handful of games next year?
Well, part of the problem this year is that they go into the season, they re-signed a right tackle that wasn't very great, but, that kind of comes into signing the people you know instead of people you don't know. But then they drafted a tackle, and he immediately got hurt. Then A.J. Green gets hurt, and A.J. Green is the best player on the team. Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap underperformed. So I really did think there was talent. Back in April, I said they'd go 8-8. I did not see the disaster that became this season. But who can predict that A.J. Green is going to injure his toe or his whatever the injury was on this bad field the NFL made him play on, or that Cordy Glenn's going to say, I have a concussion, so I'm just not going to play for 6 months. That is not disparaging people with concussions. There was a whole issue there. But anyway,
right.
There's things you can't predict. But, yes, I think there is talent. But, I do think they have a lot of holes they need to fill. I remember back when I covered the team and I talked to Brian Callahan, their offensive coordinator in the Combine. He said, he basically said it could be a long year. Like, we have a lot of things to fix. And at the time, I thought, you don't have that much to fix. And, well, he was right and I was wrong. So, be interesting. Let's see what happens with them.
Do you think that they will make the pick and take Joe Burrow?
I think if they don't, then everything people say about them is correct, and there's no excuse. Honestly, no excuse. Their fans would riot in the street. They would probably set the city on fire. Because obviously I talked to a lot of people in Cincinnati. I still visit Cincinnati. Everyone wants Joe Burrow. They made Joe Burrow T-shirts after the national championship game, and they sold hundreds of them within the next day.
Okay.
Everyone wants Joe Burrow. So if the team picks someone else, oh my gosh, it's going to be a bad week in that city. I kind of like chaos though, so I'm like, just go ahead and pick a tackle and see what happens.
The reporter in you is like, yeah, give me the chaos for the attention. There's some truth to that. Okay, before I let you go, who's playing quarterback for the Saints next year?
Drew Brees. That's my hunch.
Do they use the 24th pick on a quarterback?
If Tua's there, I think they should. I think they might. If the right quarterback's there, sure, why not? I think that would be a good idea. You got to think long term.
Is Teddy Bridgewater on the roster next year?
Not if Brees is.
And you think Brees is?
Yes, I do. I don't think he's going to retire yet. I think he sees his roster and I just don't think he could sit on the sidelines and watch them possibly go to a Super Bowl next year. So just my hunch.
I agree.
I don't know what he's thinking, but I see Brees and Taysom being the quarterbacks next year, and maybe another veteran. I don't know.
Thank you for taking some time out from your Mardi Gras shopping. I hope it goes very well. And if you end up on an Endymion float again, please let me come interview you this time. And I will drink, I promise.
As long as you interview me on the float and bring me White Claws on the float,
okay,
I can make that happen.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to drink the White Claws. I'll drink something else. But I will bring you all the White Claws that you can consume responsibly in an evening, or irresponsibly since it's Mardi Gras.
Yes, sounds perfect.
All right, thanks.
I'll work on that.
Thanks, Kat. Enjoy your day.
Thanks, you too.
All right, we'll see you. That's Katherine, Terrell.